Welcome to Soundbites, everybody. Kip Ione, founder, Teams of Men here. If you're watching this, you're about to dive into another episode of our weekly Soundbites segments. The Soundbites is either going to give you best clips and sounds from our latest Hivemind with like-minded coaches from across the country who are activating our lesson plans and our educations and trying to share and learn best practices for building your players as men in your program. If that's not a Hivemind week, you're listening to a Soundbites. It's going to be me discussing ways to activate and weaponize current events from across the country that I think are usable and teachable moments with you and your team, whether it's through Zoom, whether it's in person, whether it's in a share. I'm going to be talking about in those types of sound bites ways to activate what they're seeing in their scrolls, what you're seeing on the news. Either way, welcome back to Sound Bites. Hey, so on this Sound Bites, I wanted to talk about the way your players enter the discussion, enter the convo you're having with them when it comes to character development, healthy manhood, etc. And I think the mistake we can make as coaches is forgetting that our guys are all bringing and carrying ideas, beliefs, backgrounds, upbringings vastly different. And even the team you had last year to the team you have this year, the guys have matured, the guys have changed, you've added freshmen, you've lost seniors. The makeup of every group is different. So something that we think is very important for you to learn how to do and start doing the beginning of every calendared year of your character development program that working with us here at Teams of Men is do some pre-testing, do some pre-assessments to get a better gauge of where your guys are at in the conversation and the knowledge pieces you're trying to roll out. We would always do that as coaches, whether it's a hoop coach, football coach, soccer coach. You would want to find out where's my team at skill-wise right now before I write this practice plan or this individual skill development workout. I wouldn't start with stuff we feel they already have a mastery level of. We'd want to start in addressing things that they have a deficiency in. So on the screen here, if you're listening, I'll explain it verbally, but if you're on the screen, you can see here on our YouTube channel, this is an example of our Frosh character development pre-test that we use here at Willamette for all of our incoming new recruits that have committed. They get this from us to help build their first year curriculum in Teams of Men. And we can help you develop that for yourself here with Teams of Men based on this model. And just to give you an idea of some of the questions we ask them, define in your own words what it means to be a man in the 21st century. How would you rate the number of times you have heard or read the phrases toxic masculinity or healthy manhood during high school? What do you believe the macho paradox means? What role can men play in preventing sexual and domestic violence? We've got 10 to 15 questions every year. What is bystander intervention? And what, in your opinion, what percentage of sexual assault claims are true? And after I get all these answers, it's all a Google Drive form that we would create for you here at Teams of Men, because I think that entry level for younger kids, freshmen in college, freshmen in high school, is really important because they get to be honest, but they don't have the ramifications yet of having to raise their hand to give you these answers. So they submit these anonymously to us, and I'll give you an example here on the YouTube channel of what the answer summaries look like. So here's an example of the answers we got from our incoming Frosh on what it means to be a man in the 21st century. So I get this output as the coach. We would help generate this for you in our Teams of Men program for you with you and your program. And then based on those answers, you get a much better idea of where the gaps in your player's knowledge is, or compared to where you want to take them, where should I actually start? I think it's a huge thing that I didn't really do in the first couple of years, and I've learned throughout a decade of doing this work that it's a great way to have a better launch and a better first impression with your players. As you can see, my assistant coach, one of our facilitators for Teams of Men, Chris Horton, has developed one for our mental resiliency, emotional fluency, and positivity trainings we want to do. Some of the questions he's asked: in what ways does adversity affect you? Describe positive self-talk. How do you apply it in your life? How often do you recognize and name the emotions you are feeling? What do you think it means to be mentally resilient? How do you identify other people's emotions? All these types of questions that kids probably aren't used to getting, but in this format, in a form we create for you and an anonymous survey answered back to you, they can be honest without fear of ramification. So couldn't emphasize more for you guys, know and where and how, and find a mechanism for discovering what your players and how they are entering the conversations you're starting to have with them. proactive versus reactive coach. I know you've heard this, especially if you're a high school or youth coach and you're a teacher. You've heard about these in classroom management, classroom discipline. If you're a parent, you probably had these discussions with your partner. How are we prepared to lead and be in charge of individuals? Are we going to take a proactive approach to trying to head things off at the pass, or are we going to be reactive and be punitive in actions they take that we really didn't help them create a better decision-making paradigm for? So what I've got on the screen here, if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll read it off if you're listening on your drive, is how have you prepped for these lists from here at Teams of Men. And these are all scenarios that might sound, as I'm going through them or as you're reading them on the screen right now, as, oh, Kip, those are worst case scenarios. Those don't happen. I'm going to be honest with you. Every single one of these things has happened to a college coach. Every single one of these has happened to a high school coach. Every single one of these has happened to coaches across sports, across age groups, and very seriously, most of them have been to coaches of young boys or men. So I'm going to read these off, and I want you to think to yourself as I'm going through them, what have I done as the coach, as the leader, as the mentor that I am, to equip my kids with the tools necessary to make better choices in the moment. All of us, I think, would agree on some of the consequences that would happen in the reactive state after we were told that one of our team members committed these acts. But the challenge I have and what we exist for you as coaches here at Teams of Men is to help you build programming to prevent these from being on your list. Okay? It's not 100% guarantee by any means, but you can sleep better at night as a coach knowing you have put in the work of putting your guys' decision-making paradigms through reps, through scenario training, through videos, through speakers, through purposeful Teams of Men curriculum to be better in these make or break situations. And what I'm talking about is, number one on the list, what if a member of your team commits sexual or domestic violence? What if a member of your team commits a racist or offensive act? Or a member of your team commits academic fraud? A member of your team is caught stealing? A member of your team is caught drinking or doing drugs? A member of your team is caught lying? A member of your team is caught hazing or bullying another member of your team or someone else, whether in a fraternity or another group you're not a part of. And all those, as you go through them, sexual, domestic violence, academic fraud, stealing, lying, all those are things we hope that we have a group of young men that aren't going to do that. Absolutely. Their parents hope that too. My belief and our Teams of Men belief is we can help you with this pain point. When you worry about what are they going to do when they're not under my thumb, we can help you be proactive with the curriculum we build that addresses the underlying causes of men taking these actions. As you go through them, some of them are really rooted in an unhealthy sense of self, an unhealthy sense of manhood, and they're taking actions to prove it to themselves or to others that they are a real man. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to help you schedule and calendar to exist in your day-to-day team routine. This is just as much a part of your team's existence as weights, as film, as practice. Being proactive is what we do to help you with. Appreciate you listening to this episode of Sound Bites from Teams of Men. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're checking us out on social media at Teams_Men on Twitter. Follow me, Kip Ione, Ione, on LinkedIn. And if you like what you hear from a Hivemind segment of these sound bites, be sure use the links included below in the comments and the descriptions of the video to join us for our next Hivemind.